Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Powerless Podcast. In this episode, I talked to Adam Elara, who is the vocalist and primary songwriter of the band Sikeen out of the Los Angeles area. They describe themselves as an Arab or Desi rock band, and I think that is pretty pertinent as the music covers everything from sort of Blink-182 era, self-titled type pop rock and pop punk, all the way over to metalcore and heavier elements of that and hard rock and everything in between. It really depends upon the song and the influences, as well as a whole host of things from Lebanese folk music to having samples from the West Bank to contributing a lot of things from West Asian culture that maybe a lot of other bands that you see from the States especially don't incorporate in this fashion. So it's really cool to break all this stuff down with Adam. We had a lot of fun talking about his start in music, kind of the imprint that he does with the influences from where he's lived throughout Western Asia, as well as talking about cultural and social political events, namely Gaza, Palestine, and the genocide going on from the Israeli government. So we talk all about that and how that influences a lot of Adam's music. It was just really great to break all this stuff down. This is a very unique band and one that I kind of stumbled upon when we talk about at the very beginning as a result of hearing about an Israeli band. So we get a little bit into that and a whole other host of things. We talk about namely 2 songs, but a few others as well. Watermelon Kickflip, which is sort of their delving into pop rock, and then Draw the Line, which is their most recent song, which is what I first heard from them. But there's a whole host of things we talk about in this, and you should really break down Adam's songwriting and kind of their whole discography, because it's just absolutely fantastic and very, very dynamic and eclectic. If you want to find the band, find them on all social media at Sikeen Music. That's SIKEEMUSIC, I believe, but I'll have all of that in the links in the show notes below. If you want to follow the podcast, follow at The Powerless Pod. You can find us at thepowerlesspod.com. That's where you can find the merch. That's where you can find the Discord. That's where you can find all the social media stuff. That's where you can find the YouTube, which is what we primarily push, but you can also find us on all, obviously, streaming platforms, Spotify, etc. And yeah, just make sure to support there. We do have a Patreon that is just $2.50 a month. So make sure to follow there, chip in a couple of bucks if you like what you hear, to kind of help support things and help me do what I do here as basically a one-man show for the most part. And I'd really appreciate it. Before we get into the episode, though, there's one other thing I want to talk about and give attention to. I collaborated with them on this on social media, and make sure to get the word out. Pop Punk Press, which is kind of a news and music news magazine out of Texas. The creator of it, Shelby, had kind of shared recently that both of her parents are battling cancer and also lost their home at the same time. She's found a place for them to go to be able to recover and to try to fight through with chemo treatments and everything in between. But they do need the funds for at least a security deposit, first month's rent, as well as moving expenses and all that stuff. This is like a absurdly American story, whereas people are dealing with significant cancers. I think pancreatic cancer is what her father has, and her mother has endometrial cancer, that they also lose their home and have been homeless for the last, I think, few months. And so they're trying to get into a new place for them to live so they can be comfortable as they deal with treatment, try to fight cancer. So please, I'll have that below in the GoFundMe, or in the links below the GoFundMe link. Please chip in what you can. If you can't, share this link around, share it on your Instagram story, share it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you use, and try to get the word out. Shelby is someone that is great at her work, is really good at kind of putting a social political lens on a lot of things in culture and in pop culture and music. And above all, this is just like an absurdly unjust story, and they could really use our help. So if you have a few bucks to spare, even if it's $5, whatever the case may be, whatever the lowest amount is that you can do on GoFundMe, go for it. Every little bit helps. They're trying to get to $5,000. They are currently at $1,650. So they could definitely use a lot more help and a lot more eyes on this. So again, if you cannot donate, please share it around. I'll have the link below again for anyone that wants to share this, wants to contribute, and wants to help out Shelby as she tries to find her parents a little bit of comfort in this really, really trying and devastating time. So with that, we'll get into the episode with Adam Elara from Sikeen on the Powerless Podcast. Thanks so much. All right, I'm here for the next episode of the Powerless Podcast with Adam Elara, who is the frontman of the band Sikeen out of the Los Angeles area. Sikeen labels itself as an Arab or Desi rock band and has a vast culmination of influences. From my personal listening through your guys' catalog, you've got influences everywhere from modern metal and metalcore era stuff to pop punk and the likes of Blink-182. You've got a song that's straight up like a very Blink-182 vibe, which is really, really cool. So rock band is a good way to describe you guys in a big sense, because you have a lot of different influences I want to get into. I love when bands do that. But first and foremost, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. We're as good as you can be. I'm just stuff's tough right now, but we don't need to get that heavy right off the jump. Damn, yeah, that's one of the hardest questions to answer. How you doing? You're just like,
I know it's the worst nowadays, isn't it?
which part of me do I answer?
Yeah, like if you feel like you're at work and you're like, yeah, it's fine, it's all okay,
That
like
meme with
but
the dog that's like sitting smiling, and then the house is on fire. Like, this is fine. That's me, like, all the time.
you have no idea how many different variations of that I've ended up having to use from that meme for like episode tiles for like YouTube and stuff. So I very much know what you mean, because we talk about a lot of bleak stuff on here, which we'll get into, but it's important to talk about, and I know you've got a lot of insight there. I want to get into your music. I want to get into some kind of fun questions I ask people and all that, but I do want to get into where I found your band, which was a random Instagram reel that I saw, which I have to give a little bit of a backstory and a little bit of humiliation on my part on this.
Okay.
It was from you kind of clipping the Her Last Sight band and
Yeah.
going, this band's Israeli, we're not. And this is a band that I had never listened to. To my credit, I had never listened to a full song from them.
Good.
I had no idea who they were. But people, I've played in bands my whole life. I'm probably a couple years older than you, and I've played in metalcore since like the early 2010s, and kind of, you got wrapped up, there's the memification of things, and there's the kind of like cheesiness of it all that you can like. And so people would send me like their like 30-second clips of them doing some hokey thing or whatever. And the cheesy part of me was like, I didn't look into the band at all, didn't know anything about them other than like them wearing cowboy outfits and sounding weird and having a little breakdown or whatever was going on. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's cheesy 30-second clip, funny, like people send it to me. It's like, oh, it's like that comedic dumb metal band. And then I saw your clip, and I was like, oh my god, I've like, as someone who's like been so, especially post 2023, but even prior to that, very much like in the know and trying to pay attention very much to Palestinian liberation and things of that nature. I was like, I cannot believe this one of all things got under for me, that I was like, here's this memey hokey metal band that I kind of like jokingly enjoy the 30-second clips. And then I looked it up, and like, it wasn't even just like where they were from, obviously. It was like really terrible opinions that had gotten them like kicked out of, how bad you got to be kicked out of a German music festival, like to be told like you're not allowed to come.
They like pissed off 5 different communities in like one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And so when I saw that, I was like, I gotta like rectify it. But every year, one of my buddies that used to be in a band I really enjoyed, him and I will do like a, end of the year favorite albums type thing, and like we'll do a little banter. And I was like, oh yeah, my brother sends me like these clips of this hokey fun like metal band, and it's this, and I named the band, and here I am like realizing not only are they like, again, to my credit, never checked out a song from the band, never followed them on anything, but I was like, and that was like not just like an Israeli band, that was a like like overly genocidal, like trying to do the trope of like Palestinians don't even exist. And I was like,
they suck.
Yeah, they just played with As I Lay Dying in like Tel Aviv or something I saw the other day, which tracks, so
As I Lay Dying played in Israel?
Yeah. They played in Israel, or at least are going to. I'll clip it on the screen for the edited side of things, but if they haven't played yet, they're going to, and the opener is Her Last Sight.
Well, birds of a feather, right?
That phrase popped in my head right before you said it. Yeah. Like it was like,
God,
my God, like what a cesspool of just terribleness. But like the good part of that was that I found your band, and I messaged you guys, obviously not just because, you know, first and foremost, I love what you guys are about, but like the music's genuinely awesome. So it was like, hey,
Oh, thanks, man.
The one plus side of seeing this clip that made me feel very humble that I didn't like look up the background of the shit that I'd been seeing was that I found a really great band in you guys. So with all that said, one kind of icebreaker I like to do with people when I've never talked to them before and we're talking about your music is just kind of what have you been listening to lately? What's like bands that have been on repeat for you? Musicians, doesn't have to be metal, doesn't have to be rock. It could be the most cookie cutter pop music, could be the Beatles, could be the indie band down the street. But what are some bands or some artists you've been listening to a lot lately?
Right now, I would say with I guess like Arab music. I've been listening to DJ Habib's new EP a lot, and I'm probably gonna end up doing like a metal remix to one of his songs pretty soon. In the rock world, there's a band I just found them on Instagram. God, what? Hold on.
Yeah, look it up. I can edit things. Don't worry about it. Take your time.
Late Drive.
Late Drive?
Yeah.
Let me look this up.
They're cute. I like their music.
Yeah.
Uh,
Looks right up my alley.
yeah, and then with metal, right now, nothing like new, but I do listen to Era a lot. That's usually like my mix reference. And then there's a band, I don't know the name of the band, but the song is called Limerence, and it's a good song.
Oh, that's Code Words.
Yeah,
right?
good stuff.
Yeah, I was actually supposed to have them on the other day, and there was a scheduling mishap, so I'm supposed to talk to them soon, actually, as well.
Oh, that's
very,
amazing.
very good band. Yeah.
Ooh, also Tetrarch.
Yes, yeah. Great, like new metal vibe band.
Love them.
Yeah.
They're so sick.
Their guitarist Diamond is like so insane. She's so
man.
good. She's so good.
I'm so like I'm vicariously like so proud of her. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff she's doing and stuff. Yeah.
What's I forget here the guitar deal she has. Is it with Schecter
or Jackson?
I think you're right with Jack. She's the first black female signature guitarist in Jackson guitarist history, which is an indictment on like music at large, but also very cool for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good for her.
It's one of those things you read in I think that happened in 2025. Yeah, in November 2025. But again, fantastic for her, groundbreaking stuff, and she's such a shredder, and like the whole band is fantastic. That band is super good, but she's sort of like the big highlight of it. Yeah. But like I remember when I first read that, I was like, oh damn, that's the first black woman that's gotten a deal from this guitar, this massive metal. It's like we got a lot of work to do, but again, fantastic for her, great band. That's one this is a good reminder for me. I need to message them. I want to get them on here sometime soon for the next music they release. But yeah, all those bands are great. Era is one that I am with you for the mixing side of things, like
so good
because they have so much going on and it's so crisp and so clear, and but without becoming like what a lot of I would say like lower tier of them, and I try not to like be a hater on bands unless they're her last sight, but of like you know that kind of like everything's so glossy you kind of lose things, and the mix that can happen in modern metal a lot. Era does a really good job of whoever. I know Jesse Cash, who's like their singer and guitar player, has a lot of his like fingerprint on it, but like whatever they do when it comes to mixing is phenomenal because there's so much shit going on,
sound and separation, and everything's just it's exactly where it needs to be. I'm always falling short of that reference, but like it's definitely good to have as something to listen to when I'm working on stuff. Yeah. I also don't have an 8-string guitar, so
yeah. There's that as well. Yeah, you gotta go. What I don't know if you ever listened to Glass Cloud. With you if you liked Era, you'd love him. What's his name? Josh Travis is like the guitarist from that. He was also in Amir at one point, but left the band. Thankfully, that band's whatever. But there's a point in the band where he used a 9-string guitar, which I didn't know existed, but it was just like the gentiest of all gent in the 2010s, but I digress. Nuts. But yeah, an 8-string guitar is like, it's too much for me. I'm someone that like, I play music, like some heavier music, and I can't go to even 7. I use a baritone for 6 strings. because like if I do the 7, like my brain like doesn't understand like the differences, and like, like I think the what would be the G string should
Right,
switch the
yeah, the
variant of
chord
the
shapes and
intervals.
everything
Yeah,
are
yeah.
different.
Can't
Yeah.
do it. I just use you just use a baritone and put it down to like drop F sharp or something dumb like that, But
So personally, I will be moving to a 7-string baritone next year.
oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. What's your so I know you're the front man of the band, right?
Yeah, and in the studio, I do most of the things, but on stage, I typically just sing, yeah, I mean, I'm front man, but really, I do the mixing, the mastering, the arranging, songwriting, and a lot of most of the instrumentation writing and all that stuff.
So yeah, kind of like the forefront songwriter and kind of headspace
Mhm.
for like the entirety of the band in that vein, right? Mm.
Yeah, but I
Uh
do like collaboration. I am starting
yeah.
to work with our drummer a lot more with the writing and stuff, and I can't wait to like really get more of his input because most of the material you guys have heard thus far was written in isolation without band members. So now that
Oh, okay.
there's more people around, the music will definitely evolve with that to reflect the people.
I like to hear that because I like to nerd out when it comes to like recording and like and stuff like that like maybe only other musicians like. So I'll get into that with you a little bit because I
Cool.
love that kind of side of things because I do the same with some music too in different veins. But so like what kind of like what's a go-to what's your go-to guitar? Is it are you a Fender guy? Are you a Jackson guy? Schecter guy? PRS?
ESP,
What do you got?
LTD.
Okay, nice. There you go. That's classic.
Honestly,
I had one of those a while back and I kind of miss it. I wish I would have hung on to it.
I got this is like my studio go-to. I think just because of the Evertune and the
Yeah.
Fishman Fluence Moderns, this stuff does like jet, metalcore, pop punk, alternative. The key to everything is the volume knob. Because if you want to do
Yeah,
something a
yeah.
little crunchier, you just dial it back. So this takes everything that I throw at it, and it even like the Arab music too, and the Desi stuff. It's kind of insane how versatile this thing is. The other weird, I mean, since we're talking about music nerd shit, I do like flat wound strings, and it kind of has a different tonality than the round wound or
Yeah.
whatever. So, yeah.
Very, very cool. No. Like I love hearing somebody appreciate the volume knob. I think that's underappreciated with like being able to do multiple styles with like the same guitar. Like I think
Yeah.
like I own way too many guitars and probably shouldn't own as many as I do for what I do. But like yeah, all distortion and all different needs of like shreddiness to pop punk chords, it can really just be dialed in with a volume knob on your guitar, and that's about it. Like it really doesn't take too much.
Honestly, there is a lot of ground you can cover with a copy of Neural DSP Nolly and a
Oh
Fishman
yeah,
Fluence Modern. You can do so much with just that. It's crazy.
can get the crispy like DI like clean tones with like the ambience, that like Spirit Box and stuff does all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
All the way to just like crushing riffs and breakdowns and sounding like Blink 182, like we'll get into.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, that's so again, like you bring up all these different influences is a good way to kind of kick into other things. You've got a lot of influences with your band, which is again why I said earlier the label of just like sort of rock band really does fit the band well, I think, because like it kind of gives you this broad spectrum of just like we'll just do whatever the fuck we want, like depending upon what mood I'm
Exactly.
in.
Yeah.
So kind of first getting into music for you, you can go as far back as you want, whether it was, some music more in the conventional like metal or pop punk, pop rock stuff you heard on the radio or stuff you heard at home or whatever the case may be, you know. What were some things as far back as you can go that really like influenced you to have music, whether you were just a listener or starting to play, like passionate about music? What were some different influences you had growing up?
Yeah, I would say what the stuff that got me into actually playing music. So I loved music since I was a kid. Listen to records that maybe like my dad and my mom would play at home to like my older cousins and stuff you hear on TV and like whatever it was. But
Hmm.
the things that got me wanting to actually play was definitely Nirvana, Blink 182, Linkin Park. And the thing about all that style of music is I was listening to it after. Like the movement had already happened,
Yeah.
and people had moved on to things like the 20s of, the what do you call it? The stomp, clap, hey music,
Uh,
the
yeah, the Mumford and Sons type stuff, right?
yeah,
Like, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
Not your fault but mine, and it was your heart on the line.
Yeah.
when I started actually playing in bands, that's what people wanted, and
Kind of
I would
died off
show up.
so fast, you know? Sorry, I didn't mean to, but that stuff died off in popularity so fast too. It felt
But
like, you know?
and
Yeah.
rightfully so, because I think it sucked. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, that was what everybody was wanting, and that was the cool guy stuff. And I would show up in fucking like straightened hair, black eyeliner, and ready to just fucking scream and shit in my earlier bands from like high school. But no one thought it was cool. They're like, "Oh yeah, that shit's so like last decade." And I was like, "Whatever, I don't give a fuck. This is the kind of music that I want to make." And then I think I really wanted to start incorporating stuff from my own culture into the music, and we'd kind of heard like early DNA of this in bands like System of a Down and
Mhm.
Tool and things like Nile and
Oh, yeah.
even super deep cut, but there's this video game on PlayStation 2 called The Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
And those soundtracks, Stuart Chatwood is blending in rock, metal, alternative with vaguely Orientalist music.
Mhm.
So and that's from like a white perspective, but you can still really appreciate it because it's like, oh wow, there's some definitely some intention here. And so when we started making this stuff, I was like, oh, it would be cool to actually do this without it feeling gimmicky, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the thing of the thing of this band.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, you say that about the Prince of Persia soundtrack. It's also, you know, Tool, right, as well, and you know, I know System's more Armenian than it is just full on like European, right? But like,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, there's the big elements of that kind of feel. You know, for Tool, it was probably like too many drugs, and then you know, System was actually somewhat worldly and like what they would actually
Yeah, well,
consume, right?
Serge actually lived in Lebanon as
Yes,
well.
yes,
And
you're
so
right.
he's Armenian, and there is a time where I think he spoke Arabic as well. But just I've kind of ingested a lot of interviews of him over the years, and I did listen to his music a lot as well. And so I think that had more of an intimate relationship with both of the cultures because
Hmm.
he grew up, doing Armenian music and all that stuff, right? I didn't grow up necessarily performing Arab music or Desi music, but I was definitely surrounded by it. So getting to have this opportunity to do something in this space felt really unique and exciting because a lot of my peers that are brown, whether they're Arab, Desi, Persian, tend to be either hip hop, rappers, DJs, and that kind of stuff because that's all
Yeah.
cool mainstream culture. And rock is definitely not the cool guy music. So like I always went and tried to get into that stuff and no one understood it. And now out of nowhere, like people are popping out being like, where's this been? I'm like, where have y'all been, man? We've been looking for the emo Habibis this whole time. I'm always one of one everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, just like that's the funny thing about music, though, right? Like, kind of like style and fashion in general, regardless of where you're at, where you're growing up in the world, is like things come in cycles, and I think people are, whether it's just like sort of like the grown up warped tour type people that are looking for different things now, or it's like the younger generation. You can tell I'm old just by saying that, but like,
The
you know,
younger
just
generation.
yeah, you know, I teach. My day job is I teach at a high school, so I'm very
No way.
aware. I'm very aware of how old I am from like the sort of conversations I have with people. But no, but like the point being is that like things come in cycles. So like that's why it's always good to stay true to what you're really into, because like, one, even if it's not in fashion now, then you get the cool underground cred at some point, and then eventually when things come back around, you can kind of be the blueprint for what people kind of want to latch onto for a trend, right? So it all works out.
Yeah.
But your music specifically, I kind of want. Actually, I'll ask a few questions for this, but your music specifically, as I've said earlier, and you've kind of noted, has a lot of different influences. Certainly not just System or Tool or on the metal side, or just like, you know, rock. You know, there's I should have, forgive me, I should have put down what song it was that you released, but there was a specific one you have that is a straight up, like, it sounds like it could have been on the self-titled Blink 182 album. You know, like
Oh,
with feeling
Watermelon
this.
Kickflip?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So that one,
yeah.
I never really do this when writing a song, but that one had a mission where I was like, I need to make the world's first pop punk dubke song. So because it's equal parts dubke and it's pop punk. Like if
Yeah, yeah.
the way the drums are, it follows the dubke rhythm, but the guitars really do very much Jerry Finn era Blink 182.
Oh yeah.
And that was very intentional. I loved Blink 182 so much. I think when I was a kid, that was like I learned all of those songs when I first started playing guitar because it's very accessible. And um to learn your instrument essentially. You could just get started writing songs immediately. So with
Oh yeah.
Watermelon Kickflip, I wanted to do something that felt like in that vein, but also I spent like grueling hours with my friend Hussein to come up with the lyrics for that because it as much as it is a fun pop punk song, it is very serious, like what we're
Oh
talking
yeah.
in that track. And we even throw in the Blink 182 style humor where we're like making fun of Israel in the song and stuff. Like that had like I said small dictator, so just had to, make sure people knew that what was happening.
Yeah, yeah. Had to do the Tom DeLonge dick joke in the middle
Of
of talking
course.
about like a,
Yeah.
apartheid regime, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is, yeah, this is so up my alley. That's why I needed to have you on to talk about all this stuff. But I guess like I guess to give a little bit of your background, because a lot of your music does have a lot of, I would say, now more than ever, obviously the last couple of years, has a lot of like social precedents or worldview precedents that, like, it's very evident it comes from a different place than like it I'm trying to think of like the exact words I want to say. There's like an authenticity to it, I think, that is a lot more succinct than, say, like a preachy white dude punk band. If I want to
Sure.
be like, and I love
Yeah,
those
yeah.
bands, to be clear. I love those bands. Like
Yeah.
I am in one of those bands, so to speak,
Right.
right? So I'm kind of shitting on myself there with this sort of
No, no,
critique.
no. We share a common
Yeah,
language
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just basically saying, like, has this sort of been something that's kind of been mixed in with your lyricism since you first started writing music? Was it something that
Mhm.
propped up more post 2023 when like the whole world saw what was happening, as opposed to what most people that have like sort of an Arab or any sort of semblance of Asian background can know on a lot more succinct systemic level? Just kind of speak to where that comes from for you when it
Yeah.
comes to your lyricism in your music.
I would say, like, yeah, definitely the songs have been more intentional, and the band is only like a year old. So
Yeah, yeah.
that the band being is started in the wake of everything that's happened following the events of October 7th and the ongoing genocide of Palestine has definitely informed a lot of what we're doing as a band. But I would say to speak to you about like the preachy white boy and stuff like that kind of stuff. The thing is, we share common language because I grew up with like emo scene music that I gravitated to after it fell out of fashion, right? And if I could relate to an emo depressed kid in the Midwest or in the suburbs, imagine you're that emo kid, but then you're also watching your parents' countries being blown apart since you're a fucking kid. So that is kind of why that music really I think resonated with me because like I was sad for so many different reasons. And then there was this unexplained, unarticulated thing that I just didn't know how to express. And then this was the best vehicle for me to get that point across. So you add in all of the normal problems you would have in the suburbs, the pretty girl doesn't like you, you got kicked off the baseball team because your grades suck, like all the bullshit that every kid losers like me would go through. But then on top of that, there's racist ass kids that are making fun of you. You turn on the TV and then you watch like for the last 20 years the US has like occupied Afghanistan and things like that. So,
Right.
you know, there's all these layers and I hope that how we're approaching pop punk and emo and all these different types of rock is with that authenticity of like a lot of what we're getting now, the feedback from people is that finally there's representation. And I don't even think of it that way, but also just like, I hope I am doing you justice when we're doing this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just kind of like having, like you said, parent, countries that possibly I'll ask you a little bit more about that, but countries that your parents come from or relatives have been from, grandparents, etc. Like it's just like a lot. You can have that personal angle as well,
Yeah.
right? Which is just like a lot more. It's just another angle, yeah, I didn't mean to like shit on people that like do anything, but it's just, it's, I think it comes from like a lot more specific and idiosyncratic lens when it comes to lyrics that I think just can't be replicated by somebody else, right? That's why I
Yeah.
kind of put it in that vein. But to that point, a little, just your background a little bit. Are your
Yeah.
what is kind of your back? You said your parents' countries, like what's kind of your background there?
My family ancestry is Desi, Arab, Afghan. So, Yemen, India. I have family that lives in Pakistan. My grandmother's tribe's originally from Afghanistan. And as a kid, I lived in Saudi Arabia, here in the United States, the UAE, Pakistan, Uzbekistan. And I've traveled like all over just as like a kid. My dad had the job that made him move around a lot
Hmm.
when he was working in Saudi. So I got to see a lot of Central Asia, South Asia, West Asia as a kid. And when I get back to the United States, because I was actually born here, but then we moved around. So I think a lot of that has informed my just like the way I look at the world. Because
Oh
there
yeah.
are people that I know who are born and raised in the United States, have never left, have never traveled. If they do, it's maybe to Canada, maybe to one of the Western European countries, and like
Yeah.
that's their lens how they view the world. So mine's always been like that. And this whole time of seeing stuff happen, war crimes unfold and the fallout of that, it's been a lot of heartbreak of seeing kids that look a lot like me or people that I'm related to or that I've grown up with, and just seeing futures just absolutely gone, bloodlines destroyed. And I'm out here making music, and I can't help but think every single time I see a parent holding like a 7-year-old boy in his arms after a bomb is dropped on them, like that could have been the next great anything. That could have been the next
Right.
Michael Jackson. That could have been a doctor. That could have been everything. So now that I'm here and I'm alive, I really have to fucking see this shit through because I got the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely empathize with that as well. Despite obviously not having the world experiences you've had of going to all those different countries, which I'm sure has informed quite a lot for you. Um, that's sort of, you kind of answered the question already there that I was going to ask as like a response to that. But when and what, as it pertains to the music scene, I guess, as you said, this band is like relatively new, but you've clearly been a fan of this vein of music and also been a musician for quite a while. um what's been your kind of take on the music scene at large? And let's talk post October 7th, right? Because I
Sure.
think that's when a lot of Westerners and people that, like even myself, like I've said on this podcast numerous times, like I could go back and I'll see like a post of mine from like 2014 where I would say something about Palestine, but like I didn't
Oh, that's
really.
amazing.
but
Amazing, man.
but I'm saying this to kind of shit on myself a little bit. Even
Oh,
I, like didn't grasp. I'm surprised that I saw that I'm surprised at myself that I like had a post like that. You know what I mean? It was just something you
yeah.
saw and you're like, that's bad, and occupier and stuff as a kid in the Midwest. And then October 7th happens, and like instantly you just see, you know, I have an episode coming out tomorrow about kind of the evangelical right in this country, how they were like both,
Oh,
which is what I grew up in, absolutely like both saying this is like a horrific attack and also gleeful about the end times, right? Then you've got other people acting like, you know, raining down hell is the morally just position. And then you've got other people for the first time really evaluating, growing up in a place like the United States, what colonizer and occupier and apartheid and all these different things mean for the first time, which I think was informative and groundbreaking for several generations of like what the world really is, right? So I guess in the context of that's all that to say. In the context of the music scene, as someone that's an avid fan and been a musician for quite a while, you produce your own music. What has been your thoughts or your perspective on the music scene in the United States? Let's say specifically the rock scene, I guess, since that's kind of the vein we're talking about.
Mhm.
And with this in mind, obviously there's been a lot of disappointment. There's been some surprising good voices. There's been some people that have been horrific that you wouldn't think of. Just kind of your thoughts there at large.
We are getting breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Somebody else has pointed this out, that we're getting little shout outs, we're getting a little bit of a recognition. What I am not seeing, and I wish we would see, is more of what happened in the 80s with Live Aid.
Yes.
We haven't really gotten, we've had maybe something really small scale that happened in SoCal last year, but just it would be great to see something more upfront and more something that generates more donations and charity and awareness from some of the biggest voices in rock. I am. It's great that somebody shouts "Free Palestine" on stage during a song. And
Right.
maybe some people have donated, but what would be great is some high level of organization with people that have made careers off of stuff that is supposed to be this resistance youth culture music. And right now, there's a disconnect between the roots of what that is and where these people are at right now and their relationship to the working class man and our attitudes and how we are, what our politics are. Um, and not to say some of these bands, of course, like Blink's never been a political band, but something more along the lines of I like what Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello's been doing, which is really nice. He was literally on campus encampments performing during, what that stuff that was happening. And I think I saw recently that Haley Williams had said something about Free Palestine. And before that, Bring Me the Horizon did a whole song about Gaza with Underoath. So I think that's really great and stuff. I think I'm appreciate anybody who speaks out, but I'm not gonna just I don't know what people expect us to do because it's the need is too high and not enough
Hmm.
people are talking about it. And that's sort of why I started doing this thing because at that time I felt like not enough people were doing it. So it sparked me to at least do something and maybe try to get some attention to my friends that are in this specific scene, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of gets into a little bit where I like to like you already did a little bit with Watermelon Kickflip, but we could get more into it. And I would maybe want to start with your most recent song that you've put out, Draw the Line, which is the first song that I heard from you guys.
Amazing.
You as you said, like this is all very much in the forefront of your music. I think that's great because we are sorely missing that, especially in this vein. As you said, there's bands that have been doing, like Rage Against the Machine, sure, absolutely, Tom Morello, Zach De La Rocha, actually, as well. They were getting indicted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I believe, and instead of being in Ohio for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, he was at the pro-Palestine march in DC, and like people got
That's
he
so
was and
awesome.
classic him, like not sharing pictures, not trying to make like content and showing his face about it. People just like saw him and got pictures of him, just like, and he had. I was at the concert where he broke his ankle or whatever it
Holy
was, or
shit.
tore his ACL in Chicago, and so he's like walking like with a limp or with crutches in DC for the pro Palestine march instead of
Good
going and
for
getting
him, man.
so like there's definitely people that have always been principled that you're like, yeah, that tracks. That's like on board with what
Yeah.
they are. Like, I've heard stuff from the melodic hardcore band, I guess you'd call them, Stick to Your Guns, who,
Mhm.
he's like been going hard for this. It's Straight from the Path had several songs on their last album that would do this before they broke up, all these different things. But it's sorely missing like the at the forefront lyricism and message with like good music. The main point is it also has to be good to entice people as well, right?
I
Like it's still
appreciate
art.
that.
Yeah. So we'll go through a few songs here. I'll pick this one and a few others, and if there's one other one you wanna go over. But Draw the Line. I love the art, by the way, too. The dagger, which fits with the band name as well,
Yes.
is very, very awesome. But kind of speaks to a little bit of where your, kind of what the song's about, the lyricism, the background, and kind of the influence that had this brought this song to the what am I looking for? for you to create, I guess.
Yeah. This song was actually written in 2024. Following what was happening at that time was that Israel had not only bombed Gaza and had started the increasing amount of encroachment on West Bank territories of Palestine, but also had bombed Lebanon, had bombed Syria, and had bombed Yemen, and had bombed more. It was just that's what I there's a double entendre, multi level meaning to draw the line. Because on one hand, I'm also referring to the fact that all these borders were not made by us. The fact that this land was not all these separate countries at one point, it was Bilad Hashem, right? And
Hmm.
same thing with the rest of the Middle East, which that term sucks. I don't like it,
Yeah,
but
I'm trying
that's
to work on not using that one anymore myself as well. Yeah.
West Asia. How about that?
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, North Africa, West Asia, South Asia, all of these borders were not drawn by us and are not reflective of where our peoples are. And it also is asking not only the American public, but everybody else, like, where do you draw the line? How much is enough? Because they said they didn't bomb hospitals, and then they found out that they did bomb it, and then they said we're sorry, and then they did this, and then they just keeps on going, and you're like, how much? What will you allow them to get away with? And then there's the other question I'm asking where it's like, who are you to tell me what is mine? Because I've had conversations here in Los Angeles where a white man is explaining to me the geopolitical natures of the countries that I'm from. And I have to just feel like, bro, you've never fucking been there. What the fuck are you talking about? So who are you to tell me what's mine? And these fuckers are out here at these Middle Eastern Mediterranean restaurants. They're all Israeli owned and they're selling garbage hummus and, Timu falafels and shit. So it's just like, yeah, who are you to tell me what's mine? People are telling me, oh, hummus is actually, or they can't even say hummus because they don't have the ha, but they'll say hummus is actually Israeli, and you're like, oh, really? Fun fact for everybody watching this, we'll give you this for your show.
Yeah. Yeah.
The word hummus literally means chickpea in Arabic. It does not have a meaning in Hebrew. So the reason why we call it hummus is because the name of the actual dip is called hummus bit tahini. Tahini sauce, the hummus, chickpeas in there. When you go to a supermarket and you buy a can of chickpeas, it says in Arabic, hummus. So that's where we get the name from. Where does some Polish guy fucking... How? I don't understand.
Yeah, you know what? At the very least, and I'll get some flack from so much. But at the very least, they could be like me and just be honest and like pronounce it like a white Western European does, and say you got to say hummus. You got to say hummus. You got to at least own that you didn't create this shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, the draw the line, like what you're talking about there is something I've like tried to explain to people is like we don't understand, even like white liberal people or whatever you want to call them don't really understand this sort of like this submissive nature that literal borders were drawn at. There's the old like this is I don't know if this is myth or reality, but post World War II, where Winston Churchill, which Western people try to act like is a legitimate a positive figure in the world, and
Dude
anyone that's
sucks. I
from
hate that
India,
guy.
anyone that knows anything about India would know that guy should
Yeah.
have been, anyway, I won't say it here so the episode doesn't get pulled. But like the joke was that he literally like sneezed while he was drawing the line for several borders, and that's how the borders are made, is just like the pencil kind of going awry, right? Like that's how
Yeah.
dismissive they were of like really drawing these lines. And then people wonder, apart from also imperialism and rampant war crimes and like military industrial complex and settler colonialism, and I could throw out every other word that you also know in the context of these things, like, and we wonder why, when nobody had any consideration of like ethnic groups or history or what things were like historically prior, why, it's not, it doesn't take a fucking historian or an
No, and it happened
anti-imperial, like, yeah,
in
sorry,
that
go ahead.
region. In that region, it happened a few times. And actually,
Yes,
it's great that you bring up India because that happened in 1947, that
right.
partition. And
Partition.
tell me if this sounds familiar. You have East Pakistan, India, and then Pakistan. 1948, that partition plan is West Bank, Israel, Gaza. And then before that, if you really want to take it back, prior to the partition of India, you have freaking Durand line between Afghanistan and Pakistan. What Pakistan didn't even exist yet because Pakistan came up into being in 1947. So, and then you also have Sykes-Picot. That is where Balad Sham got diced and decimated and spread up and cut up into all these different things.
Right.
And you know, it's irrespective of what you said. Like, it's not of actually any natural borders or tribal like kind of things or any of that in consideration. It was just French and British acquiescing to whatever they wanted to have influence over. So yeah, man, I draw the line. Not just, I know I got a little ADHD there, but
No, it's okay.
musically, I wanted to bring in the aggressiveness of what I really grew to love about things like Deftone, Linkin Park,
Hmm.
Korn, you know, even a little Limp Bizkit and all
Yeah.
that kind of shit in there. The new metal energy. We have like turntables that are snuck into the music, a lot of sampling, and yeah, I tried to make it so that it worked as like just a song that fucking kicks ass. And then I snuck in an actual chant that we do at protests where we say min al maya lil maya. That's in the chorus. So when I sing in English, I say, this is where I draw the line, min al maya lil maya, and then I say, who, you know, it's just back and forth. And in Arabic, it translates colloquially to from the river to the sea.
Right.
uh so that is the foundation of the song. It was really cool to be able to pull it off. And we got a hookah bar keyboard solo over a metal breakdown at the end of the fucking song. That was just like my music nerd self. I was like, hell yeah, dude.
Well, to get into that a little bit, you said that you do a lot of the production and do you do the mixing yourself as well for the music?
Yes. Every song following Strangeland to today, everything's been mixed and mastered by me except for one song, which is called Habibe.
Hmm.
That was a funk rock collaboration track I did with Mama Yaya, who's a
Hmm.
Palestinian and Jewish singer. We had that one has a cool story because we had it partially mixed in the West Bank. We
Oh
had
wow.
we had samples that were recorded there as well. And then Abed, who's from Levantine Music, is Palestinian as well, and he did a lot of mixing on it as well. So I really wanted to incorporate more because I'm not Palestinian, so I really wanted to have that be a core feature of the song. And you know, we make a song about Palestine, and let's actually have some Palestinians involved as well. You know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool. So you guys, you were able to get some samples from some things that you threw in that song, like specifically from the West Bank.
Yeah, yeah. There's like some instruments that were recorded there that we were able to get, and just some like loops and stuff that we
Yeah.
were able to use. And then Abed has like since he used to be in a band in Palestine, he has so many connections out there and was able to source so much stuff for us to make that song happen. And Mama Yaya just found me off of TikTok, and we just became like best friends after that. And she's such a good singer, and that
Yeah.
song would have never happened had it not been for her. And it was so cool because she's very much a soulful R&B singer, and at the time we were just been doing pop punk fusion metal shit. And so when our styles combined, it became this funky rock kind of thing. It
Yeah,
was cool,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's another one of my favorites of your guys's, and her voice like adds so much to that track. It's like a very unique one in a really cool way.
Definitely made me work a lot harder because I was like, damn, dude, she's so good. I can't suck on this song.
Yeah, it's good to have a chip on your shoulder on that front, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to all this, so you said up until recently, you said you're doing a little bit more collaboration with your drummer that you work with and stuff like that. But kind of walk me through like what you're on the instrument side. We're talking the lyrics a little bit, and we'll get back into that because that's like my forte. That's what I really like to dive into. But I'm also a music nerd, like I said. You said
Amazing.
you use Neural DSP, you use the Nolly plugin, which is that's on my computer that I probably had pulled up like 30 minutes before this. Um,
Nice.
I've got that one, the Gojira one I use a
I got
lot, and
that
then
Gojira. Love Gojira. It's a good
and
one.
then
Yeah.
the bass one I use is the neural parallax. Like that's what I basically use for the most part. Um,
Yeah.
so so I guess like for you when it comes to all this, I'm guessing it's a lot of plug-in type stuff. Do you do like what's your go-to kind of stuff that you use? do you do like programming drums? Do you use like one of the like one kit wonder things, GGD? Like kind of what do you
Yeah.
get into on that front?
Yeah. So this is great because I love this stuff too. It's a big part of what I do in the band. So I do everything inside of Ableton Live. And there's a couple of tasks that I do for editing that's done in Cubase, but by and far the most of our stuff is done in Ableton by me. And I have like I'm very like pragmatic when it comes to things because I used to have a ton of guitars. I've really shrunk my collection now. So I have a Fender P bass. I have an acoustic guitar. It's like a cheapo brand because I used to have a Taylor, but I had to. Their times got tough, so I had to sell my Taylor for
Yeah.
rent. It fucking hurt. It fucking hurt. Um, let's see, what do I got? I got oh, it's a Mitchell. It's a Mitchell.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah,
You know?
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, when you have the Taylor and you go to a Mitchell, it feels a little oof. You know.
Yeah.
For recording, I use this the ESP LTD with the Fishman stuff, and then for live, I have this modified Fender Squire that it has the color palette of the Palestinian and Arab flags, and also it's the
sick.
same. It's the same color scheme that you'll find across like Pan Arab flags. And so that's why I chose that color palette because it's not only for Palestine, but it's also from the countries I'm from as well. And yeah, that one also has the Fishman Fluence Modern and just the bridge. But I did the Tom DeLonge thing where it's just got the one knob, one pickup thing.
Yeah.
That's what I use for live. But in the actual production of everything, for drums, it's a hybrid approach. We haven't had the money to go into a proper studio to record live drums. So I'll do things from like the get good drums, but then I'll pick different drum samples that I'll find from elsewhere and then layer it from Joey Sturgis. He has those one shots. I use those. Sorry, drum shots, I think. And
I think, yeah.
And there's a couple of libraries from him that I have that I do that with. And then there's also Easy Drummer. But then I also had, for a long time, I had a E-kit that I would hook up to the MIDI to actually like capture performances. And then I would edit them on the computer. And I also have like a keyboard that I will program stuff in with too. So for guitars, a lot of it's Neural DSP. But then there's another program that not a lot of people use. It's called THU Overloud.
Oh yeah, I have that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's
from like Slate, right? Do you use it from like the Slate kind of stuff, or is it just
no?
From
I
THU?
have the actual full version
Okay.
outside of Slate because I'm starting to move away from that stuff now because
Yeah.
like I have other tools that I use instead.
It's the way to go.
But I used to use Slate like religiously. I had that thing, and that's everything. I even had the microphone. I had all their shit. But now I've just you find what works for you. So I'm just figuring out other stuff from other manufacturers. But anyway, the THU Overloud's really good to layer with guitar tones. I find for like, because it gives you everything. Like you get all the pedals, you get all the amps. And I'll typically just like shut off the cabs on those and then use like a IR loader from something else. I think the IR loader that I use is from Fractal actually. It's called Cab Lab. And then I'll just bring in IRs from various things. And I will say though, with Neural, I don't do the bypass cab on there. Typically, I kind of just use what they have because, man, it's a rabbit hole. You can just get lost with that shit. And
they will try to take your money, man. They will.
It's crazy, dude. And because even like Get Good has like a cab sim thing too, and then you can just get into all that. So I just try to get to whatever I think sounds good and then EQ the best I can. And there's a lot of UDUB stuff too. There's this thing called Toxin Solo, which is this VST that you can get all these Arab instruments in there. You get the oud, the midwez, the ney, and then there's some other native instrument libraries like Oriental Strings that we use and Baklava, Orient Express that I'll use to make the soundscapes and structure. The soundscapes and the other samples for our music because it's two parts. It's like the rock element and then the Arab and Desi stuff too. So it's cool being on rabbit holes for YouTube music production for like metalcore, gent, and pop punk, and then switch over to like, what is this guy in the hookah bar doing right now? And like, how do you recreate a Omar Suleiman song? How do you recreate this Saint Levant thing? And it's just kind of this really weird. I don't know if anybody else has my YouTube algorithm right now.
I was gonna say you might be the one guy that has like both of these worlds just trying to sell you everything via the algorithms and like ads and all that. You're getting you're getting ads from like somebody playing like an era song like we were talking about earlier, and then just like straight up like they see like Arab like music instruments. That's
Yeah.
incredible. But it makes a unique sound, which again, like not to say that I know everything about like these sort of fusion bands in this realm, but like I haven't heard a whole lot of music in your guys' vein, which is like to your testament, bringing all these different things that you like. And instead of being somebody, I think this is what's cool about this era of music, regardless of what's going on in the world, unfortunately, is like people don't give a shit anymore about some genre click or some subgenre that are into. Like that shit was
No.
2010s. Now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I get to
You're talking
hear.
about the elitist attitude of like, that's not
Yeah,
really metal. That's not punk. We don't give a
yeah.
fuck about that shit. It's rock, whatever flies underneath that. I love all this stuff and I want to have the chance to do all of it. That's it.
What's great about that too is like you start doing more and more live shows, and you can tailor the set based on the music you've written, right? If you're playing a heavy set, maybe the pop punk stuff, you might do a song, or like you might put it
Yeah.
off on the side. And then if you play with like a bunch of rock bands, you might throw in some more of the melodic stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the other
Yeah.
fun part of it. Like, there's a band that I've had on the show, like, I don't know, 4 different times now. They're called Pulses. I actually just saw them in Chicago. They're from Virginia, and they're like very like some of their biggest influences are all like hip hop, right? Like
Nice.
and all, but then also like post hardcore and like very scene oriented bands, and it's like it makes a unique experience because they're not just pulling from bands within their little like pigeonholed metalcore community from,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like nobody
Yeah.
wants that shit. We've heard breakdowns mixed with like, like ethereal noises since like Architects in 2008, right? Like we can do new shit. And
But when Dahl does it,
yeah.
when
I mean, I
Sleep
still
Token
like
it.
it. Like, and I'm an apologist for not all of that shit, but some of it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's just like we can experiment now. It's
Yeah.
fine. Like just do what feels natural, and like your guys' music is absolutely fantastic. So again, we've talked about Draw the Line. I would say that's like the song for people to check out first and foremost. Talked about Habibe, which is a great collaborative endeavor you've done with some elements from the West Bank. We talked about Watermelon Kickflip, which is like what I've shared with a few people that I know that are more like the pop punk side of
Sick.
things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you'll like this, and it'll be different for you at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So in general, like that, there's a big gambit there of all the music you've released, for a band that's, your first release came out in 2024, with Exit Wounds. You have a pretty solid catalog already, which helps that you can produce it all yourself, which is, that really streamlines the process. But I really appreciate your time, Adam, going over all this. I'd love to have you on again when you are coming up with new music, or we could shoot the shit, unfortunately, about glib things about the world, but and everything in between. But what's going next for the band? What you guys got going on, and just kind of where people can find you, and what's going on with your music?
So we have a new song coming soon. I'm in the final stages of like the mix of it right now. It was originally written for a Palestinian wrestler and as his entrance song, and he wanted us to release it as a single. So we're going
Oh,
to do
that's
that.
sick.
And we've incorporated, there's this thing that's going viral on TikTok that just happened to happen while we were recording the song. There's this Arabic rap battle poetry called a zejel. And it's like the oldest form of that. We actually have it in the song where me and another singer are doing that against the imaginary
Oh,
opponent
cool.
that this wrestler would do. And it's very much like it's a heavy fucking song.
Hell yeah.
And our next show is in San Francisco, August 13th at the El Rio. And other than that, we're always going to be putting out covers and, little fun kind of experimental stuff. And singles are always dropping because that's the way you got to be a band now. You got to be a fucking content just
That's right.
constantly.
And we love it. We love doing that. It's just like with me doing a podcast. I like to have these long, hour-long conversations with people, knowing that I have to find a few 50-second clips that most of the world will actually check out. It's
Hell
like that
yeah.
same kind of deal. So and with my music, like that's one thing I've never gotten down well with music is like I've put out, I don't know, with this band that I've been doing with a guy in Scotland, actually, it's just me and him. And we
we've released like 15 or 16 songs, but neither one of us has the time or the energy to like do the content side of things for social media.
Yeah.
And that people are like they check it out and they're like, oh, this is good, like I like this, you should promote this. It's like, man, I don't have the time to do one more video for Instagram. I just can't do it, you know. So I really appreciate bands that can pull it off and have fun with it, which you guys seem to do, which is how I found you. So
Yeah.
again, make sure to check out Sikeen wherever you listen to music. I will of course have all of their links in the show notes below for anyone listening on the side of things. This will be out next week, and especially with a new band that I've talked to for the first time, I always let the artist pick a song for people to hear at the very end of the podcast. If they've never heard the band before, kind of think of what you'd want them to check out for the first time. Maybe one of the ones we talked about, maybe the most recent one, but just kind of pick a song for us to play out at the end of this, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, make sure to listen to Draw the Line by my band Sikeen. And when you're done listening to that, donate some money to some kids in Gaza.
I think that's a perfect way to end this out. So again, we're going to listen to Draw the Line from Sikeen. This has been Adam Elara, frontman and a mastermind behind the band. Thank you so much for your time. It's been great to talk to you, man.
You too, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Burning bridges just to never see me. Always watching, I can see a breaking. مهما قبلنا احنا مش راح ننسى. فوضى بدمي, you will never stop me. حرية حرية, time will heal these wounds. ثورية, bringing the fight to you. This is where I draw the line. You can't make me run and hide. Who are you to say what is mine? You won't stand the test of time, not this time. Ghosts in the headlines, lies with the punchline, sleeping with your eyes wide, and the father never die. You don't got a red line, hoping through the landmines, choking on your silence. Always been spineless. Built your walls on stolen land.